Hey now, cats, we're back again on the Balls from Ellwood show. And with me today, I have a very special guest. And if you know me, you know I am a huge, huge Psycho Cop Returns fan and Psycho Cop fan. I just had to get him on my show. So please, please give it up for the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Psycho Cop, Robert Ray Shafer.
Police Officer Joe Vickers
Thank you.
at your service.
Oh my God, that just gave me chills. But anyway, I'm just gonna warn you now. I'm gonna completely nerd out in this interview because I'm so excited to have you. So it's probably gonna get embarrassing. But anyway, before
That's
we
okay.
delve into Psycho Cop, though, I actually kind of
Sure.
wanted to learn a little bit about you. Let's start off talking a little bit about how you started out. Where did you grow up, man? I mean, I heard that you actually grew up in West Virginia. Is that true?
I'm sitting in West Virginia right now,
Oh, you
Mike.
live in West Virginia now?
I do.
Holy
I
cow!
left I left LA after 40 years.
I have some of my fondest memories in West Virginia, man. I used to go every summer. I had a great grandma that lived in Booth. Are you familiar with Booth?
That sounds like a really small little
Oh,
town
it is,
somewhere
man. It's like
in a
Andy from
hollow.
Mayberry small.
Sure,
In fact, you had to drive like 5 miles to get to the post office. Like it's that.
sure.
But I tell you, dude, I love it. Like I used to love going there. My grandma would make like homemade root beer, and she had a vineyard, and like it's so peaceful. You can hear a pin. That's one of the only places I can think of in my life where I went where I could hear a pin drop, and it's peaceful, and you can hear yourself think. I mean, is it like that where
Well,
you're at?
when I moved back, I came back in 2020, and I would lay in bed at night after 40 years in LA. The noise in LA, it was so dark here. I live on a mountaintop
Mhm.
in the woods, right, and in a little town, and it was really shocking. I would just sit there and go, I don't hear anything. I mean, because in LA, it's constant helicopters and police sirens, no matter where you live. I mean, constant noise. 11 million people live in LA County. So that's maybe why it's so noisy. But no, I love it. I always visited here every year. Typically, I would make it back once a year just to, detox from LA. I mean, you come back and you live with your family. The only drawback to that was I would come back with my hillbilly accent in full bloom.
Do you ever get used to like all the craziness of LA?
Well, yeah, I mean, I may have instigated some of my own self, but uh, you know,
Are you
there's the
able to
wild.
elaborate or no?
We refer to those as the wild years. You're a kid in a candy store. I mean, the most beautiful women in the world live in LA, and so you're constantly the temptation is always there. And of course, I was bartending and running nightclubs, and I was out and about. And then as I started to work more as an actor, then I was able just to focus solely on that. And of course, that was what I was always striving for.
Well, I mean, that actually leads me to my next question. What age did you find your passion for acting?
Well, not until I was 23 years old. Um, I was dating an actress by the name of Susan Day from the Partridge Family in LA Law. And we were together for 5 years. So at the time, I was sort of dabbling in modeling, and I was too tall for that game. And I really didn't like it. It was brutal, really. I always tell people, I hated all the people hitting on me, and they were like, "You must have loved all those beautiful women." I was like, "It wasn't the women." so, so, uh, but you're so ideally, if you're going to be a male model, you're 6'1" or 6'2". They want you to fit the clothes. I'm 6'5" ish, so that's tall for that game. And uh, I started to go to her sets, and I watched you know big pros working, and I realized I could do this. So I went to school with the best teacher in LA. Her name was Peggy Fury. I'll name drop now for you, Mike. In my
Oh, please
class was
do.
Nick Cage.
Oh, dude,
And
he's one of my favorites too. Oh, you actually met Nick Cage?
yeah, I used to watch him work all the time. He was very eccentric, as he always has
That
been,
don't seem like him at all.
Yeah, no, he marches to his own drummer, but he's really talented and he loves the craft.
Oh
He's
yeah,
all
I
about
love him.
acting. I mean, and there was a time when he was all about the money, when the big studios were paying him. I mean, how do you say no to $20 million to make what's that, Con Air? I mean, you don't, you do it. So Meg Ryan was in the
Fine.
class.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris Penn. I mean, I could go on and on. I mean, it was
Oh,
a who's who, and
blowing my
she,
mind up.
she, well, I mean, it was very competitive, right? She taught the Stanislavski method, or in other words, method actors.
Mhm.
She had been from New York, the Actors Studio. She had been Lee Strasberg's right hand assistant. So that's when she would talk in the class. She was talking about James Dean and Marlon Brando and all the icons that we all looked up to. So I was in that class for 3 years, and after that, I just started auditioning.
What
Life
kind of
was one big audition.
what kind of kid were you growing up? I mean, did you ever have any interest in acting when you were a kid?
No, no, none. I was a basketball player. That was my first love. I did play a little bit in college, and then life had other plans for me. So, but that's always been my secret hobby. I'm a Lakers fan. When I grew up in West Virginia, my guy was Jerry West. I mean, I idolized him, and then I got to meet him and talk to him, and hang out with him a little bit. So that was a big dream come true for me, and he was such a class act.
I actually, you talking about with Susan Day. I mean, how did you end up meeting Susan Day to begin with?
Well, I was waiting tables at a little place in Marina Del Rey, a French restaurant, Cafe Parisien. And it was a great restaurant. I really learned to love French food at that. I didn't know anything about it, and they were making all the classics, the bouillabaisse and the coq au vin, all the timeless French recipes. And her she had a girl that worked there was a French girl, and that was Susan's nanny. Susan had a little girl. And so the nanny said, do you want to come over to Susan Day's house? They had a house out in Malibu. I'm like, yeah. So kind of happened from there.
At what age did you realize that, acting is going to be more than a hobby and it's a defining moment that will become a part of your life? Was it when you were 23 or was it
Yeah.
after?
Well, after I'd spent a year in class, I realized, okay, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna go do it. And I always say this, Mike. Nobody could ever make me quit, right? I mean, lots of talented people quit. I mean, had plenty of people in the class who were gung ho and they were going to take the world by storm. And Hollywood grinds you down pretty fast if you don't have the wherewithal to withstand all the rejection and the abuse and all that. But I was far too tough for him.
What made you move to LA? Was it like out of convenience or
A woman, of course. That's a really long story, but she had a boyfriend that she broke up with who was a Vietnam helicopter pilot, right? A veteran. And he was batshit crazy. And he was determined that I was the reason that they had broken up.
Huh?
So he decided he was going to kill me.
Oh God.
So one morning he broke into the apartment and we had this big fist fight. And afterwards, I broke my hand fighting him, and I went out and I bought a gun because I was going to kill him if he broke in again. And so right around then, she said, "Why don't we just leave?" And I was like, "That sounds like a good idea. Where do you want to go?" Well, I'd already lived down in Florida, so I thought, well, California is the place you ought to be. So we loaded up the truck and moved to Beverly.
So, did you have a cement pond?
A bunch of them. I really like cement ponds.
Well, didn't he know? Did this dude know he was messing with Psycho Cop? That's insane.
Well, he was, like I said, a Vietnam vet, a really bad alcoholic, and you know, he was a pretty tough guy. So I was a little bit scared of him, because I mean, he had no boundaries. When
Oh,
you break
yeah,
into
that's always
somebody's house,
scary.
yeah, 5:30 a.m., you really don't, or you don't have any boundaries.
And that's crazy, man.
Yeah.
When you were younger, like what actors inspired or influenced you? Did you have any? And has your taste changed as you got older? Is there anybody that inspires you now?
That's a good question. When I was a kid, the first movie that I really it really had an impact on me was one of my favorites to this day. It's Peter Bogdanovich's The Last Picture Show.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing that when I was a kid.
Yeah, Timothy Bottoms and Jeff Bridges and Sybil Shepherd
Oh
and
yeah.
Ben Johnson, and that thing is poetry. That film, I mean, it really is. And I remember that was the first time I was conscious of actors acting, right, or what they were doing.
Yeah.
And the great addendum to that story is I got to work with Timothy Bottoms,
Oh
and
nice.
yeah, yeah, we played brothers in a kids movie called Mr. Atlas, and
What
I
was it like
was
meeting him? Like, well, yeah, I mean, did you tell him that you were always inspired by him?
well, I had met him. Susan did a movie in Nashville. It was about the first seeing eye dog in America. It was the first Disney Channel movie. It was called Love Leads the Way. So I went with her on location, and he was the star of the film. She played his girlfriend. And so, I mean, the people in this film, it was crazy. Timothy and I would go down to this, walk down to this little bar at night and have beers, and the local girls were all coming over to Timothy, and I was like, I told him about, I mean, the Last Picture Show, of course. I mean, but after 10 minutes of that, you got to find something else to talk about. And it just so turned out that 10, 12 years later, he and I were working together, which was preferable to being Mr. Day.
Well, that's cool, man. How everything comes full circle. I mean,
Yeah.
let me ask you, sir, what's the easiest and what's the most challenging thing about being an actor?
The easiest thing is the movie or the TV show or the stage play itself. And the hardest thing is the auditioning,
Hmm.
the grinding. I mean, there was a series on CBS called Cold Case.
Oh, I remember
Really
that.
good. Yeah, good show. They did period recreations from the 60s and 70s, and they used the authentic music. So, very expensive show to produce. One year, I auditioned for that thing 6 times and went to callback 6 times and didn't book one of them. And the bad part about it was the callback was always at 6 p.m. in Manhattan Beach. Well, at the time, I lived in Studio City, and that's only 13 miles in actual distance, but it's 3 hours each way. So that's a 6 hour deal for 5 minutes in the room, right? So you're grinding. I mean, that is grind. And I was driving at that time a 1969 Cadillac, really good looking car, but a beast on
I was gonna say, I'm sure that was good on gas.
oh man. And 3 hours on the 405 each way. I mean, you really are earning you're that's blood, sweat, and tears out there. And then finally they moved to the valley where I lived, and that's when I booked the job. So I ended up doing an episode where I played a Russian wrestler, and
I'm sure that
that
was
was
fun.
fun.
That actually leads me to my next question too. Is there anything that you would refuse to do in a role?
Well, I don't know. I haven't. I never refused anything. I mean, I took them all. Stephanie Powers, a great actress, once told me when I was working with her. She said, "Say yes every time somebody wants to hire you. Say yes." So, yeah, I pretty much said I followed that advice. I mean, there were times where I didn't like doing something, or I would question why I was doing it, and but typically I just went with it.
Was there ever a role that you took that you regretted?
Oh, maybe I would have to really think about that. I mean, there were people involved maybe that I didn't really like, but
That's actually what I was getting to. Like, have you ever had to work with somebody that was difficult, and like, how did you, power through that challenge?
Well, yes, I did a movie called Knife Point,
Mm-hmm.
which was a home invasion robbery, and I was playing the father. I wasn't the bad guy, and the guy playing the bad guy was supposedly a method actor, and he thought he was going to stay in character the whole time. It was really just a clash of two alpha males. We were both trying to exercise our will, and so at the reading of the script, like a couple nights before we started shooting, he actually pulled out a knife, a real knife, in the reading, and I was like, "Oh, what's up with this guy?" So I called the director. I told the director when I was leaving, I said, "Give me a call." So I went home and he called me about an hour later. And I said, "I'm not working with this guy. There's no way. I can't trust him because he was going to be doing stuff to me, right, physically, and I didn't trust him at all."
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
And
Holy cow!
no, no, I mean, I get ass raped with a 38
Oh my
revolver.
god! So he was
It's
like
like,
Daniel Day-Lewis method,
yeah, I
only more
told
ass
him,
rape.
yeah, I mean, that was all, believe me, see, if I'll do that, I'll do anything right there. So he turned out to be okay. He realized after about 2 days he couldn't stay in it all the time, right? It's just too taxing. You have to come out of it. You got to you got to rest between takes. You can't stay in character the whole time. It, and I forgot to answer the first part of your question. The guys I really admire are Robert Duvall
Oh
and
yeah.
John Wayne,
Oh yeah.
Lee Marvin. Robert Mitchum is my guy.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
dude, he was great.
yeah, I mean those are the guys I look up to. The current guys, I don't really, have any favorites or anything. I don't. Nobody's knocking my socks off. Daniel Day Lewis is obviously a powerhouse, but he's quit. He burned out. I mean,
Do you
he's had
think it's
enough of it.
because he limited himself to being just a method actor? Do you think that's what burnt him out?
I think you get tired of the producers and the directors and all their games, and it takes his movie shoots are long and involved and slow, right? They're not like I like to shoot fast. In my world, the faster the better. The more pages you do in a day, the better. I was doing Pee Wee's Big Holiday.
I remember that.
Pee Wee's Big Holiday. And, I only was on it for like a week, but I had just come off of shooting my movie, Dick Dickster, which you should watch. Uh, it's about a drunk Hollywood film director forced to remake his only hit horror film, Cult
I
of
definitely got
Doom,
to check that out, man, for sure.
into porno, Cult of Poon.
That sounds great.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, no, I'm tearing. There's a bunch of Psycho Cop references in it as well.
I always want
Uh,
to ask you this. You made a cameo in this old horror movie. I think it was, I don't know, was it from 2007 called Monster Man, and you were a cop.
yes,
Was that a
yes.
direct reference to Psycho Cop?
Well, I think that might be why he hired me. Uh,
Because
I,
I'd always thought maybe like you were in that for that direct reference to Psycho Cop, but I never knew for sure.
well, no, the director, I don't know if he knew Psycho Cop or not. We never talked about it, but he just I mean, it was a bit of a Southern thing. And the funny story about that was we go on the set. It was a fun little set, I mean, the director, Davis, um, I forget his first name now. He went on to make big studio films after that. His next film was Hitman, $20 million budget.
Whoa, I
So,
didn't know that.
oh yeah, oh yeah. I can't remember. Was it
He
Mike
went from
Davis?
Monster Man to Hitman. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a big leap. But so they come up to me and they say, "Do you want to chew tobacco, or do you just want some black licorice?" I'm like, "Oh no, I'm going to do the real thing. Give me the tobacco." Well, if you're not used to chewing tobacco, I was so buzzed from it driving home. That big Cadillac going through the canyons. Because the whole point of the thing was I kept spitting, I mean, so I wanted it to be authentic and, that's when the method bites you in the ass sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I discovered Psycho Cop 2 through a buddy of mine. I've loved it ever since. But can you tell me a little bit about what it was like behind the scenes of filming that movie?
It was great. I mean, we shot it in 12 days, 2 6-day
12
weeks.
days?
Yes,
That's
yes.
unreal.
Yeah, no, it was fast. And the best part of it was, aside from the girls, uh, the the best part of it was, when you're doing a shoot like that, all you do is eat, sleep, and shoot. So you're living the movie. And every night on the way to work, we would stop at Photochem in Burbank. We shot the film in Burbank, and Photochem is where we would watch the dailies. So we were watching what we had done the night before the next day as we went to work.
Oh, that's cool.
And so, yeah, that really informed because we saw what we were getting, and so that set the tone. I mean, Psychopath Returns is much more fun and wackier than the first one.
Yeah, I was going to
Uh,
ask you about that. Like, I tonally it completely changed. The first one's kind of more serious, more of a like a thriller horror movie, and then the second one is like, I would liken it to more of a horror comedy, which is just kind of fun.
oh,
Like,
sure.
what actually dictated the change in that? Was it intentional?
The director, and the writer. I mean, the director on the first one was a very he was a Southern gentleman, and he didn't want cursing, and there's no nudity, and he was very old fashioned, and he wanted me to play the part robotic was the direction he kept giving me is more robotic, because I realized it had to be a comedy. I had to make him funny, So, I mean, that's part of the allure of it to me was the comedy part of it. You know,
Absolutely.
I don't really classify it or say this is I'm going to make it funny or I let that happen on its own. If you try to do that, then you're going to ruin it, right?
Yeah,
Um,
and it
I
seems
mean
forced.
that's the same thing on The Office when we were making The Office. I mean, nobody's trying to be funny. You're trying to not be funny. You're trying to play it as straight as possible, right? So then on the Psychopath Returns, the writer is Dan Povenmire, who he created Phineas and Ferb for the Disney Channel.
And then my
I mean,
stepdaughter used to love that, man. That was a great show. Yeah.
it's a $1 billion deal. I mean, that's how many years was that thing on? I mean, I think probably still going. So he had a good sense of humor, and a lot of that was in the script. I mean, I added some stuff, but most of it was on the page. And we had a really great cinematographer. That's on film, uh, Psychopath Returns, which film is better than video. I
It
mean,
always
everybody
is.
that
Yeah, absolutely, dude. I'm actually like I'm a huge, I guess, cinephile. So like I'll take 35 millimeter over any
oh
day
yeah,
of the week. Or
oh
I
yeah,
mean, I just went to see Sinners, and that was on 70 millimeter, and man, was that an
uh,
amazing film. But
oh, I
yeah, it
bet.
doesn't get much better than this.
Yeah, no, they did a good job restoring it.
They really did, man. Because I remember before that, I had a heavily truncated DVD, and then I had a heavily
Oh yeah,
truncated Blu-ray, and they had cut
yeah.
out like, oh geez, like probably a good 7, 8 minutes. Like,
Yeah, they cut out the violence. Well, they made it for TV, so they cut out the headshots and all the
because
good
they
stuff,
used to
right?
play it on like HBO, I remember all the time, and it was uncut. Like, and that's what everybody wanted. So like Vinegar Syndrome, man, they knocked this out of the park, man.
Yeah,
It
and
looks beautiful, it sounds beautiful, everything's intact, and I can't recommend my audience enough to go out and get this because it's just like the best time you're ever gonna have watching a movie. So
well, the funny thing is when that came out, we had a screening of it in Hollywood in this posh new big screening room, and we packed the place.
I
And
believe
that was the first time that we had ever had or watched the film with an audience.
it. Seriously,
So
after all that time.
seriously, so me and Rifkin and Nick Vallelonga was there. Or I should say Academy Award winner Nick Vallelonga. Two of them. He got two of them. So anyway, the film killed. I mean, it absolutely killed. All the laughs were there, all the scares were there, and immediately after, the screening, I walked outside, and the some guy producer came running up to me and said, "We should be making Psycho Cop 3." I'm like, interestingly enough, I've written the screenplay.
That's another one of my questions, man. Like, are we ever going to get another Psycho Cop? Because I've always
I think
wanted one, and
so.
I'm sure a lot of people do, man.
I think so. It's called Psycho Cop 3, Hip Hop Psycho Cop.
It has to be you, though.
Well, of
I don't
course, of
think a
course.
horror audience would accept anybody but you.
Well, and the film is told completely from Joe's point of view.
Ooh, ooh,
Yeah,
I
so
like
we're
that.
with him the whole way, not the traditional. We're with the
Ooh,
victims the whole
so
way.
is it almost like cinema verite?
Well, no, I mean it's a movie, but we're not trying to pretend like it's. I mean, we're shooting it as if it's. In other words, um, Joe, in the opening of the film, Joe gets a phone call from Satan
Oh my
on,
God, that's
on, his,
awesome already.
on his iPhone, and
I love it already. How
you
close is this to happening, man? Because you're getting me
well,
really excited.
it's I could do it, right away. I mean, I have to negotiate with the producer who owns the rights, and that's the only. But the script, um, it's Joe gets a roster from Satan of the people that he's going to kill that night. He's killing record company executives, rappers, hookers, and their security details at a loft, right? So they've all sinned, and they've reached their allotment of sin. And that's why Joe gets to execute him. Satan tells him,
Oh,
"You're
dude, that's
going in.
brilliant.
You're going in under a black flag tonight, Joe." You know,
Oh my God,
so
I love it already.
no, it's funny. It's very funny. I was reading it just the other day. Excuse me. And the whole reason I wrote it was for years people kept saying, "Will you do another one?" I'm like, I've already done that part. Why would I do another? Because I'm not, the producer and I are not exceptionally close. And then I heard that this kid named Jay Baruchel,
Mhm.
he's sort of in that Seth Rogen crowd, right?
Oh, okay.
That he wanted to remake it. And I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't. That's mine.
No, but nobody's looking for that.
Suddenly I got very possessive of it, and I was like, no, all right, I'm gonna, I'll write the script. I'm not gonna wait for somebody else to write the script. I'll write it. So I did, and it's just a question of working out some details and you know, then get back to the killing.
That's great, dude. Oh my God, you don't got me so excited. I really, really can't wait for this to happen. So,
Well, it's smart. It's a smart business play because it's a trilogy now. You restore the first one into Vinegar Syndrome. I thought was going to restore the first one, but they didn't for some reason. So you restore that one and you release this new one, and then you got a 3-pack on your hands.
have you ever, are you actually in direct contact or do you keep in touch with anybody from that film at this point?
Um, well, I used in Dick Dexter, Melanie Good is in the movie. Um, Rod Rodney Rod, I can't remember. He was in the film. I used two people from the film, and Nick Vallelonga and I were very close for years. I did a bunch of his movies. In fact, his directing career began on the set of Psycho Cop Returns when producer Cassie Elways came in one night. We were sitting in my dressing room, and I said, "I just read Nick's script. You should do it." And he's like, "Send it to me. I'll take a look at it." And sure enough, they made it. And that was the first time that he directed a film, and that launched his career. Was being in, and I had to fight to put him in the movie. Adam Rifkin wanted to cast the whole thing himself, but I was trying to, put a little do a little swinging dick there and express a little my power. And so I said, no, no, this guy's playing this role because I had just done a stage play with him, and we played. I played the devil, and we had a it was a car repair shop in New Jersey, and this couple wanders in, and I get them to sell their soul. It was great. One night we were doing the play. In the opening, we opened with "Sympathy for the Devil," the Rolling Stones song, right? Great song.
Oh yeah.
And I popped in too early, and Nick looks at me and goes, "What are you doing here?" I went, "Oh." So I went back out. Then I came back in because I realized I'd come in too soon. But it was so I wanted one of my peeps on the film, because on the first one I was so ardently focused on my stuff. I didn't interact with the cast really that much. They were my victims, and I didn't want to be friends with them. I
I
was that
got you.
kind of
Yeah.
guy. Really. Of course, I relaxed a little bit.
How did you end up playing the role of Psycho Cop? Was you always you were always was it written for you, or always you were always the first thought of, or how did that
Well,
work?
that's a great story because I went to the director's house in the Fairfax district in LA, which was great for me because it was only 10 minutes from my house. And so I go in. I had submitted myself from a ad in a casting notice in the Backstage Weekly, which was the Actor's Bible then, and it it I think the it said tall, imposing, tough, so I'm like, oh, perfect. And he calls me in off of off of my 8x10 and my resume, which was pretty thin, but still I was working. And so I go to his house, and there's like 8, 10 guys there in the living room sitting around reading the audition material. Well, the material for the audition was not the movie. It was a stage play, a Sam Shepard play, a very famous play called True West, which True West was done by Malkovich and Gary Sinise. That's what made them stars. It was done by the Quaid brothers. Ed Harris did it. I mean, Philip Seymour Hoffman did it with John C. O'Reilly. I mean, O'Reilly. Um, it's a real test. And the good news is I had been working on it in my class. I love this play. And years later, I got to do the 20th anniversary of it out in Pasadena, and I just killed it, because I was finally old enough to play the part, right? But at the reading, I could hear the other guys because there was thin walls in this house, and you could hear them. I could hear them just butchering this play. I mean, it's Sam Shepard's hard to do unless you've rehearsed it time and time again and you know it. If you're trying to read it, it's gonna you're gonna sound as terrible as they did. So I go in. It's my turn, and I go in, and Wallace says, "Are you familiar with True West?" I'm like, "A little bit." I didn't tell him I'm ready to put this thing on stage right now. In fact, I just watched Malkovich and Sinise do it the night before on PBS. So I just dominated. I could tell immediately that I got the part, and sure enough, they offered to me a couple days later. But there was one moment in the audition I've never forgotten it, where I went like I was going to hit the guy. My brother is the other actor, and I could see the light went off in his eyes. I'm like, ah, that's mine. So they offered it to me, and the other funny story about this is we started to get pre-production going right away, and then we got delayed by like 3 months, right? Which was fine with me as long as I knew it was still going to really happen, because they gave me more time to work out. I was getting as big and strong as I could, and I was running and I was reading demonology books. Like I said, I'm a method actor, and so the producer of the piece was Jessica Raines. Her father was Claude Rains, the great
The
Claude
Invisible
Rains,
Man.
the Invisible Man, Casablanca.
Wow.
Yeah. So Hollywood royalty to me. I love Claude Rains. I mean, he did lots of great parts, but The Invisible Man being
Oh
one of the
yeah.
story films,
Oh
right?
man, that's amazing.
So that was our producer, and Wallace Potts, the director. They call me to the production office. And they go, "Here's what we want you to do. we want you to rent the costume. And I paid for it, So it was $100, I remember. I went to Western costume. I got the big jack boots, the leather jacket, the whole Nazi cop look, and the belt and the nightstick and the gun, the whole thing. And you go to the executive producer, Cassie Elways. That's Carrie Elways' big brother, by the way, from Princess Bride and
Oh, I know who that is.
Carrie Elways. Yeah, yeah,
He's a
good little
legend too,
actor.
man. Holy cow.
I was watching him last night in Twister. He's very fine in that.
Oh yes.
Anyway, just go to his office and see if we can get this money out of this guy. So I put on the costume. I go to Beverly Hills, you know, unannounced. I show up at 2:30 in the afternoon. He doesn't know I'm coming. I just come barging in. He's looking at me in his costume like, he's an English guy. He's looking at me like, holy crap, what is happening here? So I sit around for about a half an hour acting psycho, acting tough. And finally, he looked at me and he goes, all right, we'll make it.
That's amazing.
So that's how I closed the deal.
Oh my gosh, that's a great story.
Yeah, it is.
One more thing before we close, sir. What
Yes, sir.
is there one thing that stands out in your mind that's your favorite line from Psycho Cop returns?
Sure.
Can you do it?
You have the right.
Can you make a nerd's whole day by doing it?
You have the right to remain dead. Anything you say can and will be considered extremely strange because you're dead.
Oh my
You have the
God.
right to an attorney. Fat lot of good will do you because you're dead.
Oh
Are you
God, dude, that's the best. Oh, thank you so
even
much.
listening to me? I
Oh,
hate to kick a man when he's dead. They just
yeah.
don't put up much of a fight
Oh, another personal favorite of mine where you're like, since it's your first offense, I guess I can let you go. And then
with
you,
a warning.
that's the best. Oh, well,
Well,
I'm sorry.
yeah, no, the rooftop scene was a fun one, except that was a stunt man on my shoulder, and he weighed 185 pounds. He was a big boy. He was my stunt man, and so holding him up there, and we're the camera's 2 flights down, and they had a first fall for him down below into boxes, and I had to push him over the shoulder. So they're down there looking up at me, and I'm like, whoa, 185 pounds. And he was in a cheerleader outfit, right? And so he wasn't allowing anybody to take photos. None of everybody's trying to take pictures of him. And he's like, hell no. So they kept going, Bobby, can you come a little closer to the edge? And the wind's blowing because we're on the top story of this building out in Burbank, and the wind's whipping. And so, I throw him over, and that goes well. But then when they did the high fall, we had a big bag, for him to leap off of. And so he hit that bag funny, and everybody thought he'd broken his neck. So
Oh,
it was a very scary moment, because everybody went running. I mean, the way he landed, you thought, oh, oh shit. But you know, that's the kind of thing the director is always going to, it's like when the director said to Vic Morrow, hey, Vic, you're going to be carrying these 2 Vietnamese kids out through the creek and the
yeah.
helicopter's coming down, you
Yeah.
know.
That was a tragedy for sure. Oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Big time. It really ruined Landis's career, the director. I mean,
I know that's a shame, man.
well,
I remember that happened when I was a kid. I wanted to ask you, I heard you're actually in the midst of working on a book. I mean, can you tell me a little bit about your book?
well, it's called What Line of Work Are You In, Bob? And it's every job I ever had in my life, and not just the films and television and stage and commercials, but wastewater treatment operator, cigar salesman, restaurant manager, on and on and on. As an actor, you have to constantly keep working at something to, pursue the pursue the craft. I mean, it's not always, you get a job and then the money runs out, and then you got to go get a real job, as we like to call it. So, uh, you got to stay alive if you're going to stay in it.
And then, I mean, I'm sure you're very recognizable from The Office, but I mean, do people ever pick you out of a crowd as Psycho Cop?
Yes, it's happened. Not so much where I live now in West Virginia, but certainly back in the day. Funny story was I was Psycho Cop Returns was playing on HBO and Cinemax and Showtime and all those. And so someone came up to me one day and said, I caught you on cable last night. Man, you were great." Well, I thought he was talking about Psycho Cop, but he was talking about these films that I did for the Playboy channel, where I was well, anyway, I was, let's just say, in compromising positions. And but they were beautiful women, and we were writing, I was writing them and we were producing them, so we were essentially making short films. I did four of those. And that was funny. When I would be in the halls at Playboy, they called me the actor. Oh, it's the actor. They weren't used to much acting at the Playboy channel, if you know what I mean.
No, well, I actually wanted to ask you what do you think gives Psycho Cop the longevity it's had over the years? I mean, it's become quite a cult phenomenon. Like, what do you think you can attribute to that?
Well, it's amazing to me. If you told me, I'd be talking about these films 30 some years later, I would have said you're out of your mind. You know, but I think you know, I'm right now I've been watching a lot of First Amendment auditors. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but these are guys who go out and stress test the right to film in public and First
Mhm.
Amendment. And the way police treat people these days is absolutely horrific. And so I want to see that reform. And so I think there's a chord, that touches, that hits that. But I think it's, you know, again, it's a whole new generation has discovered these things, and I'm just pleased. I'd like to think that it has something to do with Psycho Cop himself.
I think so too. It's actually I was trying to get at that. Let me ask you. I just have like one or two more for you. I mean,
Sure.
what do you enjoy doing in your free time that might surprise your fans?
Well, I play golf. I'm a pretty good golfer. Um, I watch Turner Classic Movies and I read a lot of books. I've always been a huge reader. Uh, I think that's really the fount of all knowledge, is reading. And so I'm never bored. The word bored is it never been in my vocabulary ever. Maybe I was bored on a film set here and there where I was like, come on, let's get this thing lit, you know. But bored, I don't believe in bored. So I stay busy.
If you can collaborate with one actor, who would it be and why?
Oh, it'd be Robert Duvall. Uh, well, I mean, you mean living actor? If I could work with any actor, it would be Mitchum. I would want to work with Robert Mitchum.
Oh, nice. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I watched Out of Sight the other day for the 100th time. I mean, it's so good. I'd never get tired of it. I mean, he had all the right stuff, and his attitude about it was right. Show up, know your lines, hit your mark. I mean, that don't overcomplicate it. But yeah, I like the Man's Man, and the American Man. I mean, Wayne. I love John Wayne. I love Lee Marvin. I love Charles Bronson.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh.
I got to meet Bronson, and he was so humble, so unassuming. That's what people don't realize, that really great actors, it's the absence of ego is what makes them great. They're not worried about the camera angle and how they look and all that. They're just there to do the thing and live the part, and that's what they do. So the guys that are roosters out on the red carpet, or as I like to call them, trained monkeys, posing. I hated red carpets. you know, it's it just seems so silly to me. I mean, I realize that you want to sell and promote and all that, so I get that part of it. But the posing on the red carpet really didn't work. I couldn't. I wasn't very good at it, I don't think.
I totally understand that, man. Back to Charles Bronson though, like I grew up on Charles Bronson, man.
Yeah.
Like my dad always kind of got me into those. And there's this one story that always stuck out in my mind. I had a buddy that actually worked at the airport, and he actually met him when he was alive. And
Yeah.
he said he was such a humble and like nice guy, like so not like his persona in the film. And he actually ended up standing there and like appreciating talking to him. And he was such a humble dude that he ended up missing his flight. And then
Oh,
once he found out he missed his flight, they went and had a couple drinks and pretty much talked all afternoon until his next flight came. And that's just what an
that's great.
incredible dude that guy is. And that always touched me. Like that always like whenever people, really like connect with their fans, it always kind of is a special thing to me. And like that story's always resonated with me. So that's why I appreciate when people like you do this with me because it really, really means a lot to me. And I am forever grateful and I just appreciate it so much, sir. But like I just wanted to tell you before we close here, I wanted to thank you again, obviously, for chatting up with me and being on my show because it means a lot to me. But can you give my audience just one piece of advice before we go? If they wanted to, become an actor and follow in the same steps as you, like, is there any advice that you could give, or would you recommend it, or would you not?
Sure. Well, I wouldn't recommend it. I like Sarah Silverman's advice for young actresses. They asked her, "What would you tell a young actress?" She said, "Yeah, kill yourself."
Yeah, she's so funny.
The advice I would give anybody is make your own movie, right? Don't wait around for somebody to give you a part. Make your own movie. I did a famous film called Hollywood Shuffle with Robert Townsend
I
back in
remember that.
1987.
That's a great film.
And he made that film by getting cash advances on his credit cards. We made it for 100 grand.
Wow.
And it was about a black actor who didn't want to play pimps and drug dealers. He wanted to
Yep.
play superheroes,
Yep.
right? And it's a very, very funny dog. Very, very funny movie. And it ended up doing $5 million at the box office. And Robert then directed Eddie Murphy's first concert film. And he later did
Did he do
a
Meteor
show.
Man?
What's that?
Did he do Meteor Man? I think he did
Yes, he
eventually make
did.
like a real superhero movie per se.
Yes, he did. And he did The Heartbeats and he did Parenthood on CW for like 9 years. And he played a responsible father in the raising a family. And so make your own movie. I mean, so it only took me 30 years to realize that lesson. And finally, I made Dick Dixter, which everybody should take a
I'm
look at.
actually going to check that out tonight, I think. So,
Yeah, you'll enjoy.
yeah, that sounds right up my alley, man. I'm a super I love stuff like that. Like I love in fact I actually been trying to like I just finished I'm actually in post-production of my second short film because like I've always kind of wanted to do that too. And then I'm like, you get to that point in your life where like, I'm too old. It's, it's over. It's not even too late to do that. And then I'm like, I had a bunch of people tell me, man, it's never too late. So like, it kind of inspired me. So like, I've been making schlocky B movie short films in my free time when I'm not working. So,
Well, here's the advantage you have now is camera technology and the fact that you can do it on video cameras, right? And it's can be high quality. In fact, I was just doing a podcast with a horror fan or a horror podcaster in Ireland. And at
oh
the end of
wow.
the podcast, I said to him, "When are you going to make your own movie?" And he said, "Well, I've been thinking about it, but and I said, "Well, that's why you spent all this time talking to actors in horror films and watching horror films because it's in there, right? So make your own movie, raise the money, shoot it, edit it, and then sell it. That's how it's done. It can be done. It can be done. Dixter I made for $75,000. Now, my advantage in that is I've got top-notch talent. Hollywood friends of mine worked on the film for essentially no money. I mean, I was paying as little as I could, but as a cheap producer, but I didn't have a lot of money. But I still made a film that I sold, and it's out there in the world. I mean, right now it's on Amazon Prime and YouTube and Google Play and all of them. So um, that would be my advice. Make your own movie.
Well, there you have it. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you coming by. And I mean, I'll be looking forward to that book, man. Keep me. Where can we actually keep up with you on social media to find out as to when your book's coming up and what you're up to? Hmm.
Well, I do very little of that these days, but mostly I just repost the old memories as they pop up. I'm like, yeah, that's a funny one. I'm on Facebook. but I think I've reached my allotment of friends, but it's open to anybody, my Facebook. And I'm on Instagram, sorta. I have a YouTube channel, with the old stuff on it, some of it. Uh, I should spend more time curating, the videos, but that's, if I don't have to do it, when I was still in the fight every day, I was into all that stuff heavily because you have to be. But it's a big time suck, is what it is. But now that's where you can find me.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. You don't even know how much this meant to me, man. Thank you for coming by. Appreciate the show. There you have it. Peace and love, sir. Peace and love. Mm.
Thank you, sir.